Do it. Hey, Kathy Brooks, welcome to Empower Network TV.
Greetings. Thanks for
So,
having
where did you come from?
me. My mother often asks that question, I think.
Okay. Okay. And why are you here today? Why did you want to book an interview?
So I have a pretty big vision of the world,
Oh,
which is to empower anyone to talk with anybody about anything at any time in any place without fear of friction or hate or violence. Just, I'm not saying like we're all going to sit in a circle and sing kumbaya and everybody's going to agree, but that the ability to interact with, engage meaningfully with, and converse with anybody about any topic, that there aren't off limit topics. There aren't taboo things to like, ooh, don't talk about that. Because we can see in the world today what's happening because we've spent a lot of time shushing and compartmentalizing and othering and not talking with each other,
mm,
but talking at people and about them.
mm.
And it's messed up. The world's on fire, and I'm here to douse the flames.
Okay. Okay. So, how big is your fire hydrant?
15 feet, actually.
15 feet. Okay, that's
Well, so the largest scale size hydrant in the world was at the corner of Ninth and Fremont Streets in downtown Las Vegas. I know because I put it there. Custom designed, made of stainless steel. It was at the corner of my dog training facility in downtown Las Vegas.
okay. Okay. Let's just keep going down this route. Um, dog training facility.
Yeah.
So
So,
let's
well,
start.
you asked, so how did I get here? So, I am a lifetime communications person, journalism trained, journalism degree, worked in PR, Silicon Valley, a bunch of years. I've been conversant in dog and a passionate studier of dog behavior and psychology most of my life. About 11 and a half years ago, I pulled the ripcord on my Silicon Valley career, moved to Las Vegas, and opened a next generation high level dog training facility. And I got about a year into doing that work when I realized, wait a minute, there's there's a secret sauce here. There is something about the fundamental foundation of the dog human relationship that, when unpacked and repackaged in a different way, can fundamentally change how people communicate with each other. That can literally make us better people.
Hmm.
That can make us more mindful, more compassionate, more engaged, all of the things. And it was about 6 years or so ago that I took my own beginning journey into transformational leadership work, found that I loved it, started coaching myself, and have brought all of the things back together now so that I take my considerable communication superpowers and empower other people to find their own voice, to break through the bullshit that's keeping them from being authentic, and to be radically themselves in a way that doesn't create friction but actually removes friction.
Mm. I'm in that process of learning to come to what is the truth about what's in here.
Mm.
Letting go of the stories of how I think I should be a good boy and what I think I should. And I find the more I'm coming to that, it's so liberating, but it's shocking too, to start to see myself and catch myself, Kathy. I know a lot of people on that journey in this group that are growing that same way. And it can like kind of mess you up because you're like, oh, I didn't know that I've been doing X for 40 years.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this. So, realization of the journey, a little bit of an oh, who am I? What is it? What is the story that you tell yourself in that transition? Are you letting yourself go through that transition with some grace, or are you judging yourself in the transition for what you've not been doing?
I've been doing a bit of both. It's been messy. It's not been easy because you pick up, well, I can't speak for others, but I've built a life based on a false narrative of who I thought I was. And then as I've been growing the last years, specifically the last 10 years, as you're growing, I'm becoming more aware of false parts of me. And so I start letting things drop off. But I'm still not fully me, and I'm ever progressing to be more fully me. And so every month I'm having more awareness. Ooh, that's another false part of me. And then 6 steps up the ladder, I look around me and I'm like, I know based on history, I'm still carrying more false parts of me. And I know I'm not going to see them until 6 more rungs up. And it bothers me because I just want to drop all of them and embrace that thing. But there's parts of the ego that are tripping me up still, or stories.
So what's really interesting is it's a phrase that you've said multiple times now, false parts of me. Interesting, because they were useful at some point. I mean, we develop these behaviors. I developed these behaviors and thoughts at some point in my life because they serve me.
Yeah.
They're either a reaction to my environment, protection from my environment, adhering to my environment, a mirror of my environment. And that's just how humans, we learn through mimicry, much like dogs, that we mimic the environment around us, what's modeled for us in those first 8 years or so of our life, or that formative time where like the imprint goes in. And then for those who come to a point of enlightenment and awareness and wanting to stretch and grow, there gets to be that point of, oh, so it used to serve me, it doesn't serve me now. Okay, so I can let that go, and move to the next. And the other thing that you said that was really interesting is, when do you believe the work ends? Like, do you believe, is there a finish line? Because what I'm hearing is that there's some in your mind place that you're supposed to be getting to. And what if there isn't a there?
It's hard when you're someone that wants a goal, because I want a goal. I want to be able to say, I did it.
Awesome, which is great. Goals are important. It's important to have a target. If I have, and just with the parameters that I don't really know anything about archery, except there's a bow, there's an arrow, there's a target, right? But if there's a target out there, but I don't know where it is, I don't know how far it is, I don't even know what it looks like, and I'm just kind of blindly shooting arrows, the likelihood I'm going to get to anything is probably, I mean, I might get lucky. So having a goal is great because it gives me that thing to charge toward. It's that motivator to charge toward, which is awesome. It's just that once I get to the goal, there's going to be another one. It's more like an endless mountain that you get to a plateau and you get to look around and see how gorgeous it looks and then realize this is really amazing. How much better can this get? This is great. What's possible? Like, what else is possible? And it's just a slight shift in the thinking about it, as opposed to, oh, I got to get to man, why am I not there yet? It's like, for me, it was because I had this idea mostly built on what other people told me my life was supposed to look like. My life looks nothing like anybody told me it was supposed to look like. I think my mother gave up years ago on trying to make me fit into some sort of box or another because it just never was really going to work. And every number of years or so, I decide to do a hard right turn and change to do something else. I've had these career changes that haven't been transitions. It's literally been like, I'm going to jump out of the plane now, and I got silk in this hand and some thread over here, and I'm just going to start stitching on the way down and figure it out. And each of those tectonic shifts has been utterly transformative. And I feel like I'm settling in now, like, oh, okay, so all of the things I've done actually lead me to my purpose, which is to take this, like, I am comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm comfortable sitting in really uncomfortable conversations and saying, this is really uncomfortable. Let's talk about it. And it's a superpower. Most people can't just do that. And so why not harness that superpower to create spaces so that other people can do that too. Because we need radical transformation of how we engage with each other as human beings. Starts with how I engage with myself. What's the language I'm using to talk with myself? Am I kind of giving myself carrot, stick, carrot, stick, carrot, stick? Like, oh, look, I'm going to go do that, but I'm going to beat myself up because I didn't get there fast enough. Or there's another thing to get to. It's like, it's all carrot. Like what if there isn't a stick? What if it is legitimately all carrot? What might that look like?
So I just went through this morning, and you're going to appreciate this. So we run these first date networking events, and I've not yet, with my tech person, been able to solve the blessed tech issues that still keep cropping up, that are telling people they're 2 hours after they're freaking supposed to start. And I'm like, are you effing kidding me? We're still dealing with this garbage. And then at the same time, I get from I just love Paul Kellogg. He's in this group, and he is just, I love this man. He's just amazing. He's like a father figure. He's a grandfather everyone loves and trusts. So he's emceeing it, and he just lets me know, as he always does, so kindly, Amos, like, we're still getting these things, and he's such a great attitude, and I'm feeling so frustrated. At the same time, my friend calls me, messages me, and goes, "Hey, buddy," one of our buddies, he's, stuff's not going well for him. And immediately I see in him, oh, it's for his good that he's still struggling with XYZ. And then I immediately saw, hang on, this is for my good that there's still tech issues, because this same message is coming and I've not been able to solution it. Okay, so this is not actually a problem. This is like my friend here to show me things about myself and how I look at stuff. So it took that impetus of realizing my friend keeps cycling, I'm cycling. So can you walk me through this? Because there's some stuff I'm missing here, Cathy.
Well, having been someone who sent you, I mean, you and I, this is the first time that we're really getting a chance to speak. We've met online, we've exchanged some lovely messages back and forth. And I think the first tranche of messages in between us was like, oh, so I missed a thing because I didn't get the thing till after the thing. Like, are you aware? And so I'm seeing now that my messages, no matter how nicely they were worded, each one was like a like a little jolt, not about me or how I said it, just like, God, son of a biscuit. Like, why can come on? So the first thing you said that's powerful. Well, not the first thing you said that's powerful. The first thing in this story that was powerful is the realization that I'm not a victim to any of my circumstances. There's not a thing in this world that happens in my life that doesn't happen for me to learn something from it. Period. Flat tire, paper cut, heartbreak, lose a job, get a client, lose a client, tech issues, tree falling on the car. Let's not source that since I'm living in the woods now. All of these things, when I look at them through the lens of there's a pony in here somewhere, like with this much shit in my life, there's a pony in here somewhere. And to be able to say, okay, if how I look at the problem, great book. If you haven't read it, The Problem is How You See the Problem, written by Lisa Kelman, master leadership trainer, transformational leadership trainer and coach. And it's everything in my life can be credited and directed back to how do I choose to see it? Because it's a choice. I can make a choice to look at it as I've got a burr under my blanket, or I can see it as this is an opportunity for me to take the saddle off for a minute and maybe take a rest. Right. And so the technology issues. So, I mean, we could go into the kind of woo woo here for a second. So it's about connection and communication, and there's some friction in that connection and communication. There's a message not being heard, right? I'm trying to communicate and get a message out, and it's not landing. Like, the technology is literally keeping it from landing. So else in your life, not maybe not direct, it could be direct or indirect, is there some way you're either not connecting in communication or not speaking the full story?
Oh yeah, that theme is, yeah, yeah. So Paul, again, thank you, Paul Kellogg, took me through this amazing session that him and Sandra, I guess, are doing as part of their offer in this ecosystem. I don't remember the name of it. It's some weird name. It needs to be renamed. It's not an appropriate name. There's a better name for it as sales marketing side to make it more sexy, because it was breakthrough for me. I said, dude, you got to call this a breakthrough session or something. And he gave me the cycles of uh, feel, think, act, feel, think, act. And he would gave me the overarch of where every human struggles with either they're out of order because it's supposed to go feel, what's the truth here? Then think about it or strategize and then take action. And everyone gets tripped up in certain ways. And I have been getting tripped up in, I always feel first. I feel it, but I do not always think and strategize properly. I just jump to action. And so this communication of
Ready, fire, aim, ready, fire, aim, ready, fire. No, wait,
yeah,
something's
yeah,
wrong with
yeah.
me.
Yeah. And so that thing of communicating my way while strategizing, setting up systems is something in 2024 I'm going to adopt more of, because it's time. It's time. So yes, that's where it's showing up.
Yeah. And there's another, I love that progression of feel, think, act. I come to it probably from a similar training foundation, just in different language, which is be, do, have. And I saw this with my dog training clients all the time. People would come in the front door with enter, age of dog, breed of dog. It's irrespective of breed, irrespective of age. So it's not like I have a 3-year-old pit bull or a 9-year-old German shepherd. It doesn't even matter. The consistency was dog has behavior X that is in some way, shape, or form displeasing to me. It's human. Tearing up the garden, chewing on things, peeing in the house, pulling on the leash, barking incessantly, whatever the case may be. Behavior is causing friction. So what do I need to do to fix that? Like, it feels bad to me, right? It's like, this is not good. This is friction. What do I got to do to fix it? What do I have to do so that I can have a good dog and then my life will be good? So people flip it out of order sometimes, because that was, what do I need to do to have to be? And it's, who do I need to be?
Ooh.
Who do I need to be? And then once I'm figuring out that beingness part, that I'm being the thing, the doing part, because there is action in it, right? Like, it's not like airy fairy magic dust. Like, it's not just I get to be a good person and everything falls in my lap. There's action I need to take. I need to show up. So once I figure out how to be, then I figure out what to do. Then I have what I want. So what most of the time happens with people specifically related in the dog human relationship is that they haven't established the relationship first. They go immediately to, I am a dog, I am an owner, you are my dog, I have opposable thumbs, I have cognitive reasoning and this huge prefrontal lobe and all of this executive function and all of this stuff that other species do not have. And so ergo, I am higher on evolutionary food chain, ergo, you must listen to me. That's not how it works. There is nothing saying that because I am on this end of the leash, that the dog is in any way, shape, or form obligated to be any particular way if I haven't established with the dog who I am first. Right? I would never just walk into, a new place of work, make assumptions about the people around me and start behaving a certain way. And you know what? There's some people who do that. Things typically don't go very well. They create friction, right? But what do? I go into a space and I get to know the people a little bit. Let them get to know me. Where are the strengths? Where are the weaknesses? Where do I fit in? Which cog am I in this collective machine that is this tribe, if you will, of group of people working together, if we're talking about a work metaphor? So who do I get to be so that my dog sees me as the legitimate leader that they will follow. When you establish that clearly, the vast majority of the irritating dog behaviors that people want to fix kind of drop away without you really having to do anything. Because most of those behaviors are the dog acting out. It's like the dog firing a shot across the bow to see how you respond to it, because how you respond to it gives them the signal. So, simple example, personal space. Personal space for a dog is as sacred as it is and should be for a human. My personal space. Now, I'm a hugger. I love being up close personal to people. And I'm also mindful that not everybody likes that right away. And I also don't like people like, if you don't know me and you barrel up to me and get right up in my space, I'm going to be defensive most of the time. I mean, I get a feeling that you'd be like an immediate hug. I kind of get that right out of the gate. And there's just some people where you get that energy and you say, okay. And then there are other people where you want to make your way in a little bit. But personal space, as a superior to my dog, which I am, they're not my baby. They're not my pal. I am their superior in the hierarchical experience of their life. I am their guardian. And so in that relationship, their entry to my physical space needs to be on invitation only. So when I let my dogs just enter my space, which we do with them as teeny puppies, we allow them and we insert them into our space without explaining what that looks like. So then when your beautiful little, 8-pound German Shepherd puppy who you let climb all over you and do all of the things, and you do that into its adolescence, now it's an 85-pound Shepherd and it's jumping on people where they walk through the front door, because the dog has been taught that they're just allowed to enter human space. So you got to backtrack and say, it's not that I never let you jump on me. It's that there gets to be a boundary. There gets to be an understanding of respect of that space. And somewhere along the line, I'm not entirely sure where, we humans have really kind of put aside some of the most powerful things that are at the core of our humanity. The respect of personal space, the honoring of differences, that tribalism doesn't have to be weaponized. Tribalism exists. It's how we exist as a species. Small nuclear units that operate to a function. But at some point in time, it became that those people over there not only are different, but we must erase them. And I'm not enough of a student of history to know precisely where things started going super sideways, but I'm not that old, and it was not like this on such a catastrophic scale, when I was younger. I mean, yes, there's been friction and stuff, but I'm not going to blame the internet. I'm not going to blame social media. These are all just this, they're all symptoms. And so what do? Back around, you create communities. Like, you have created and built this community of people that is designed, and clearly this healthy organism of how do we support each other? It's literally called empower, literally called that which a healthy community does, which is it raises all of the people in the community and it gives, and it's in contribution and generosity. That's really how humans are wired. This idea that humans are somehow fundamentally wired for war, kind of not actually true.
Yeah, no. That's great discussion. I'm just
was that supportive to you?
Sorry, I keep kicking this thing that my laptop's on. It's wonderful.
Just don't kick me and we'll be fine, because I'll kick you back. I mean, you're a nice guy and all, but
fair enough. I'm really thankful you're talking about this. This is the time that, okay, here's a thought. This is maybe not a new thought to you. I'm just realizing in my life that the more I'm growing, I use the word growing, the more I'm learning to accept the truth of what is, and then the false stuff that, the more I'm seeing that everything is like, if I'll have eyes to see it, it's always working out perfectly. There's no mistakes. there's no things I would have said, oh, I shit the bed over there. That was bad. It's like, no, because it was created somehow. I co-created it, usually with someone else. And even if it's painful or unfortunate, it's like everything seems to be perfect because like they need it for their growth, whether they see it or not. I need it for my growth, whether I see it or not. And so I'm starting to go, I don't know if there's accidents. When stuff's happened with my daughter that was traumatizing, I go, I don't know that I actually think it's bad anymore. Maybe she needed to draw that into her reality. Maybe I needed to experience it to grow me up. Maybe my dad and I needed to be completely disconnected in my teens and 20s and even most of my 30s, so that and what if it's all what if it's only carrots?
What if everything is perfect? What if there is no other shoe to drop? What if there isn't another shoe to drop?
What does that mean though then? If everything is perfect,
It doesn't mean so, like, let's be clear and not get it too twisted, right? Like that everything being perfect doesn't mean that we're skipping on the sunbeams and there are no challenges in life. Shit gets hard and shit gets real fast. People die, people are injured, awful things happen to children that shouldn't happen. There are wars where people are killed, there are terrorists, like things happen. Things happen. Things don't always go my way. Sometimes there's a flood, sometimes a tree falls, sometimes there's a hurricane, sometimes there's a fire. Like these are things that happen. And I'm not saying I like them. I'm not saying I'm happy that I'm going through tragedy or injury or death or loss or grief or any of that. It just it eases the process of going through it when I can see that there's something to learn. I have a very dear friend. She's goodness, she's 92, just turned 92. And her husband, to whom she was married for 65, almost 70 years, recently passed away. And of course, she misses him. Of course, she's sad, but she's not mired in grief. She's not, I am assuming, I mean, I didn't communicate with her like right when it happened during the immediate days after, but I imagine there was a lot of crying. I imagine there was a lot of waking up in the other side of the bed that's had someone in it for the majority of her life. Like, I can't even wrap my brain around what that would be like. And she's okay. She's okay. And I just looked at her and said, you are, Pat, you are what an example to me. And she said, well, I could do that. I could make that choice. And a lot of people do. And they're usually dead pretty soon.
yeah.
She's like, I still have things to live for. If I die in my sleep, I've lived a full life and I'm not looking to die in my sleep. I have children that I still communicate with. I have friends and I do things. So like she's living her life and she's happy, but she's not allowing this experience to destroy whatever time she does have left. Maybe she does die soon. Maybe she lives another 10 years. Who knows? But can you imagine how miserable, like, let's say she lives another 10 years. And if she were to live it in loss and grief, why bother? Right? Why live a life like that when the life up until then had been so great? So, I mean, and look, I know I come from a very interesting kind of family dynamic, and one of the things I've come to realize is the attachment to talking about all the shit that's wrong is real and present in my family. A very news oriented family, like we all worked in the news business at one point or another, and it's like you look at the news today and all it is sitting and talking about the same shitty thing that happened all day long. So I said to my mom, I said, you said you're not feeling well. I said, maybe watch the Food Channel, like maybe watch Hallmark or turn some music on. Like, why are you exposing yourself? Like, we already know the bad thing happened. It's not going to get any better. It's probably going to get worse as we learn more about what happened. So, what is the obsession with needing to know more about the bad thing? Can't we look at the bad thing and say, huh, okay, how do we move forward from the bad thing? This is something I heard an interview with President Obama very recently. To be clear, not a political statement I'm about to make. But he said the kind of leadership we need in the world right now is people who can hold all of the truths at the same time. It's not this story or that story. It's this one and this one and this one and this one and this one. They are all equally true. They are all equally problematic. And the only way forward is to not justify this behavior because these people did this, or to say, oh, well, the context of this is okay because these people over here have been doing this. Like, all of that's a load of horseshit. And it perpetuates. So take that off the global scale into a business context, right? So something goes sideways with technology. Okay, so you're in this loop with the technology. So how do you get out of that loop? How do you pull the emergency brake to stop the circle from spinning so that you can get some perspective to see, okay, is there an adaptation we can make here? Is there a different technology to use? Is there a different solution that can be used? Or is there a way that we adapt to this to make it work? And it's not right or wrong. It's not good or bad. It just, things in life that happen are neutral. All of it. It's all neutral. I make a choice about how I see it. Doesn't mean I like it. Or it doesn't mean I agree with it. But if I accept it, acceptance isn't agreement. Acceptance is just that. It's, oh, it is what it is. No more, no less.
I love what you said about the container of because that's what I've been trying to do is ENTV is to hold this container for beliefs that would normally be polarizing to coexist. And I take a little heat from it from people that, so I was raised very Christian. I don't attend. I'm still somewhat in that box because it's my current belief system. And yet love, I love the paradox of holding space for all these belief systems because I feel like there's so much good in everything. And I was taught to believe to run away from what's scary. If it's not what you're used to, push it away. There's nothing of value there. It's all to be feared. And even if it's to a fault, I really like holding that space and going sometimes enemy people. And I go, wow, I don't see at all what they see, but I love honoring them and considering what they're saying, going, what if I'm wrong? And what if they have something to teach me? And I find that I've been able to grow as a human from this last year because of intentionally sitting with people that are saying things that my particular training told me was wrong. And I'm like, screw the training. What if like I'm just supposed to be inquisitive like a little kid and just be like, okay, what does this person have to show me? What can they teach me today? So I love that Obama said that because I think that's a very mature statement of how we progress forward in a world that's seemingly ever dividing even more. It's not to, I think it's to be more cohesive. How do we get along, Cathy?
Curiosity. I one of the things that I have taken to doing. So I'm living right now in Central Virginia, just a little closer to the eastern end. I'm about an hour west of Richmond, Virginia. So I'm born and raised in the suburbs of Philadelphia, lived in Chicago for college, lived in San Francisco for 22 years, and then Las Vegas after that. So I've lived in these more liberal than not kind of moderate left sort of, and I moved someplace that's decidedly different than any place I've ever been. And I had a number of people who said, you're outspoken and you have opinions. And I've done advocacy work for different, groups in the past. And I've gotten involved politically, civically, wherever I've been in cities that I've lived in, because I believe democracy is a participatory sport, like got to get in there as somebody who votes to actually participate if that's what you want in a democracy. And some people who expressed fear for me. I said, well, why would I fear that which I haven't experienced yet? Like, they're different than I am, or are they? But if I go in saying you're different than I am, I'm immediately polarizing it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, roof over the head, clean water, food on the table, healthy, safe, things that I can do for enjoyment. Now, do I find deer hunting enjoyable? I've never been, I've never done it. The idea of shooting a deer kind of hurts my heart. Other people want to do it. Awesome if that's what gives them joy. It's not for me to say. Different people have different things. And I picked that as a simple example, mostly because hunting season just ended. So now I can go hiking in the wood without wearing all the orange gear with my dogs, which is great. And I've had more conversations with people who would appear on paper to be diametrically opposed to me, who on paper shouldn't like me very much. Right? I mean, I'm more moderate than not, but I would say slightly left of the center margin, as it were. I'm Jewish, I'm gay, I'm a woman. I check a lot of boxes. And there are people who would see any of those boxes and would immediately be offended, put out, whatever the case might be. I find that a lot less, mostly because I'm curious. I'm like, wow, okay, so your beliefs don't involve or include somebody who looks or sounds like me. Would you be open to telling me how did you learn that? Where'd you learn that from? And what was that like? And what was your growing up like? And what was your exposure like? And what were you taught? And how were you taught it? And why is it important to you? And if, do I threaten you in some way? What is that like? Because I mean, I'm not a huge person. I'm not a particularly threatening individual in person. So what is that like? And 99% of the time, people are open to it and usually pretty delightfully surprised.
Hmm.
Because if I come at you with how we're different, there is zero opportunity for connection. Zero. Zero.
Yeah.
And I don't have to agree. Like there are some views of people around here that I just have different beliefs. That's last time I checked, that's kind of what a democracy is supposed to be. Right? That collectively we figure out and we kind of debate and argue and passionately disagree. And then we figure out a thing that falls in the middle somewhere and go to town. The framers of the Constitution may not have been perfect individuals and had a lot that was kind of categorically problematic about them. And at the same time, the brilliance and the audacity of the framework that they presented and the measures they put in place is pretty brilliant and pretty forward thinking. I mean, well beyond the times that they were living in.
Yeah.
That they could even envision the possibility that something like this could work when it was so completely foreign. And when you think about the magnificence of that, and I was making calls for a particular candidate back in Nevada in the last presidential cycle, and I got someone on the phone who I guess ended up on the list by mistake or who had changed their registration or whatever, and heard who I was calling for and gave me a real earful. Like, and he was an older gentleman and he just laid into me talking about this candidate and saying all kinds of awful things. And I didn't hang up on him. Just let him. And he stopped. And when he stopped talking, he said, hello. I said, yes, I'm still here. He said, you're still there? I said, yeah. He said, why? I said, because hanging up on people is rude. And you had something that you wanted to say. So I thought I'd listen to you.
Hmm.
Dead silence on the other end of the phone. And I asked him, I said, so how long have you lived, in Las Vegas? And we just started chatting for a minute. It turned out we had more in common than not. Did I change his mind on his vote? I have no idea. But what I did that day was connect with somebody in a way that maybe, just maybe, he can see that those other people aren't so other, and I'm just one person, but if I can shift one person who then shifts two people, and then those two people maybe shift four more people, I'm doing my part to send a ripple out somewhere to make some kind of difference.
Cathy, we need to end it here because I got another one, and this has just been a brilliant interview, and you just crescendoed it right there. So I'm just gonna shut up and say thank you so much for being here. If you've been watching Empower Network TV, Cathy Brooks coming live, or else on the replay or on the YouTube or podcast. What a treasure house you are. Thanks for fire hosing us and fire hydranting.
I'm going to
Lots.
send you a picture of my hydrant.
Please do. Please do. Drop any links you got. You got a lot going on, I can tell. So drop any links in the comments. People are going to want to connect with you. I'll just keep chatting with you after this ends here in a minute.
Fantastic.
10 seconds. But thanks everyone for watching. Cathy, it was a real pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.